Welcome back, guys. Jason here, SmartHelping.com, live financial modeling. We're working on the assisted living facility build. What's happening? Um, I did have some good developments in this debt schedule. I figured out the issue, which was the flow to refi, was in. Yep, well, I'll show you the issue right here. We'll get into it. I actually sent out the fix on the mixed use development model that was using this logic yesterday. So we'll get into all that. Let's go ahead, get the video out to Twitter. Hope everyone's having a great Friday. Happy Friday. Live financial modeling. Assisted living facility. And here we go. Don't forget, check out smarthelping.com for all the financial models, templates, and tools. The model I'm doing right now, assisted living, will be included in the real estate bundle once it's done. It'll probably be done next week. Also, it'll be included in the industry-specific startup financial models bundle. And remember, you can get everything on the whole site for $9.99. Includes well over 100 templates, tools, and spreadsheets for finance, general tracking, accounting tools, a lot of joint venture waterfalls, cash flow waterfalls, forecasting financial statements, all kinds of stuff. Okay, so let's jump in here. As you know, yesterday was a huge issue with this debt schedule that I was stuck on. I was burnt out. We had just done all the expense assumptions on the monthly detail. We got all of this built out all the way down to EBITDA, and then we were working on the debt. And we define a couple of variables to show essentially how many months we're going to use the loan, the debt facility for, if you're doing construction or development, and if you're going to use any debt at all, if yes or no, and if no, it'll just zero out. You can see here if you hit no, nothing goes to here, and your whole cash flow requirement will just be coming from equity. But if you hit yes, you can see here, there's now going to be draws based on a percentage of the acquisition or development cost financed. What's the max amount of months you're going to draw from? Then you could potentially start, once the interest only period's over, it starts with a regular P&I. And then here's the fix. Look at this. So yesterday we had an issue. It said we were financing 7 million, but the value you can see here, the valuation, let's see, what date was the refi happening? Month 36, which was November 2025. So look at this. Saying our refi valuation is 8,050,000 times debt T6, which is the percentage of LTV. So we're saying it's worth 8,050,000 that we can get at an LTV of 50%. Now here's where the trick comes in. So remember, I was going back and forth between 50%, 100%. It wasn't exactly half. I'm like, what's going on here? Well, it was doing the amount less the balance of the initial loan. Instead, what it should be doing is the whole amount that you get from the refi comes in here. The P&I, principal and interest, is based on that amount. And then the net we get when we go down and do our remaining cash flows, it will show the total refi proceeds, which would be this 8,050,000 less any prepay fees, repayments, all that stuff. So here's the fix. It's so easy. Watch this. So all I have to do, instead of minus 15, minus P15, remove this. Drag it down. Now look, 7,871,000, which makes sense because now if my LTV basis is 100%, it should directly be double, which there it is. So 15, if you divide this by 2, 7871. If we put this to 50%, 7871. So that's the number I was trying to figure out yesterday. So that's the fix, and it's all working great now. I'm actually going to bring back the mixed use model because I want to continue following this cash flow logic because it's really good. So let's see. So right now we've got cash flow before financing. So that's where we're at right now in the assisted living facility. Cash flow before debt. We'll just call this before financing. And then we say, let's see, how did I set this up? So then we have all of this whole section we got to copy. So this is again why it's nice to have logic that you can pull from other different things. Let's move this down. And we simply paste this in here. So interest only loan is the first item. And we'll look at, we're just going to be taking our proceeds column, so debt column D, matching the month with that month, and taking this back here, and that should be it, I believe. Oh wait. So match debt D if C4 matches C. Oh, no, this is month number. So I want to go with C3 here. And there's proceeds. So there's all my proceeds. Remember I'm doing 50% of the expected development and acquisition costs are being financed up to month 9. So there's that. Now we have interest only payments. So this is if we're accruing the interest, nothing will come in here. So if we hit yes here, we have no payments, it just accrues to the principal, then it'll flow over to the initial loan. But if we hit no, there's going to be some interest payments, which will then come out of equity requirement as well. Let's see, so that's column G. All we got to do is remove the reference to the other template. The month number matches. Okay. And there's your interest payments. Now you can watch, so see the total here is 44.5. You see this interest 44.5. If we hit yes here and accrue the interest, then there's no cash effects here, but the principal balance will be rising. And we'll take care of all that on the balance sheet, and when we get into the financial statements, all that's going to be very clear. All right, so there's the interest only section. Now we'll do the P&I. And note when the executive summary is going to have a nice schedule like this that shows this on an annual basis. So this is a really cool waterfall style that shows the different effects of um, the loans that are happening. The interest only part, the first loan, and then the refi. And again, you can choose not to do a refi as well. That's an option. You could also choose not to do any financing. Okay, so I'm going to update the rest of these formulas with the find and replace. No, it won't let me because I have the little apostrophes at the top, so I have to manually do these. So let's remove these references. And this is why when I do the import of the financial statements, I keep the tabs that are being referenced with the space in between, so that you can do a find and replace. All right, so here's the initial principal of the first loan. All these references should be in the same spot at least because we didn't change any positions when we imported that debt tab. So principal and interest looks good, 17.5. So it's taking these two here. Now repayment. And this all makes sense once you see all of the items flowing together. Prepayment fee, if applicable. And then total. So here's our initial loan. Cash flow effects. You see that'll go all the way over to refi happens on this once there's a repayment of that. And so when we bring in the refi proceeds, we want the total. We're going to target this column. We want that total amount. The total LTV. We don't want the total amount less this, and then we're resubtracting again. You'd essentially be double counting the repayment, which is not correct. We just drag all these over for the whole model. Okay, and now we just gotta re-reference this section and we should be good to go. The hardest part of these is getting once the monthly details down, that's the bulk of the work, and then the rest is just essentially making references. Now we're gonna have to see if we have to add any special logic for the exit, but I think I did already update that on the debt schedules. I'll have to see though exactly. We might have to do some stuff on the refi amortization to make sure. Okay, so here's all of that. Here's your proceeds, total effects, so just adding all these together. Looks good. Now, the trick is, so April 2026, I believe that's the mixed use end month. No, it's not. So let's just go in here, because actually I think I got too excited about the fix, and I didn't go through these other columns which we possibly need to update as well. So starting balance looks fine. Payment, yep. Okay, so here, this is referencing the old version, but still we got to clear that out. And then this is going to be end, referencing the end month here. Okay, good. So that's working. That's fine. Here's another one. So this is just checking if the model is done yet or not. And if it is, it's going to 0. Okay, so that's good. Let's look up the ending balance. This is just formula. Oh, this is a big one here. Hold on. Okay, so we want to take all of this out. This is referencing, so this is probably going to be an if and, but let's just put it straight to the end month for now. Probably have to do more logic here though. Now hold on, what's this multiplying by? Debt x 15. Oh, that would be the penalty fee there. Wait, why is it? Oh no, oh, the penalty fee times the ending balance, okay. And then repayment. Now, the trick is we know there possibly could be a repayment, but there might not be. And did we work out on the initial loan? Let's see if we do this. So if there's no refi, okay, yeah, so this is zeroing out, but what if we don't include the exit? So what if we're not including terminal value? If we're not, that means we're not repaying the debt. Does this work? No, it's still, so there's a repayment, but the amortization stops at least. I'm trying to think of the best way to, so we'll have to do this same logic for both the initial loan and the refi loan. So let's just look at this. So in theory, this model ends on April 2032, and we're not having any repayment fees. So I guess we just zero out these two if the result is no. So we say if this equals no, then the whole row is zeroed out, because that means there's never any repayments happening. Same with this one. And that means you just want to see a forecast out to some period, and you don't want to plan for any exits or anything, just a stop of just the model's just stopping, but there's not necessarily an exit. Okay. And then let's make sure if we do hit yes here, it does come through. Perfect. Okay, so that's fine. We don't do anything to this one. Now let's do the refi. So let's say there is a refi happening. We've got the refi now happening here. And I believe we can do the same exact formula. And yeah, so that wasn't too bad actually. And I believe that should solve for all cases that happen, whether exit value is included or not, and then any end month. So it's there. If we hit no, that's fine. Just it essentially stops here. Any principal and interest payments stop. All right. Looking good. So we have all of these different financing items in place. Let's make sure if we were to hit no here, nothing happens. So no financing. Looks good. Now let's also look, if you were going to do this, do we have the option for, let's see. Oh, what if we don't want to do a development loan and just go straight into a P&I? So if that were the case, I believe, let's see if we hit one here. I think you'd have to override the start month to happen at the end of this draw period, possibly. Let's see, this is 7. If I were to put 7 here, nope, nothing happens then. Well, I believe the workaround would be have all the draws that are happening happen in month 1, all the development and acquisition costs and everything, because then you're drawing on the P&I. Because really, you're not going to have a traditional P&I loan that draws over time. It's going to be a fixed amount. So 99 times out of 100, if you're doing a development loan, if you're not doing a development loan, then all the costs are going to happen in the first period, and that's going to be your basis for the P&I, and you would just put in 1 here for this period. And let's see, we can't do 0, so it's going to be 1. So you're going to have 1 interest payment, and then the actual amortization will start in month 2. So that's if you're not doing a development loan, but then also if you're doing that, you need to make sure in month 1 all of the draws are coming in, so then it just flows over. But if you're taking on debt and you have draws, then it's very likely that this is going to be, at least 6 months. Here in our case, it's 7. And then this starts, yeah, okay, so that's fine. Also, if you hit no here, let's say if we accrue interest. Hold on, if we do accrue interest, there's actually no payment. You're just taking 1 month, and then that just increases the balance by 4,000. And then you start your P&I. So that's fine. It's a little bit of a inconsistency, but it's not really that material. It's a 1 month delay. But the power of having this logic dynamic like it is greater than the issue of not being able to do a P&I for month 1 and instead month 2. Okay. So this is all referenced correctly. So we're now on total debt service. Let's see, what's our next step? So we've done total debt service cash flow. Cash flow. We'll put in debt service coverage ratio as well. And then, so cash flow is going to be debt service cash flow. Now, hold on. Yes, so this is total debt service cash flow is only taken into account the refi stuff, the initial P&I, and then interest is not looking at the proceeds. So when we want to do total cash flow after everything, we do the proceeds, net effect of all the debt service, EBITDA, and cash flow before financing. Now let me make sure I don't have anything, because this is a little bit structured different than the mixed use. So let me just double check. So this is doing that, cash flow before financing. Exit proceeds we'll have to add in, but that's fine for now. So 1, 2, 3. So it's just doing debt service, proceeds, cash flow before financing. So that, cash flow. So we don't need to add this one. because this is already including EBITDA. So here, if we scroll over, now debt service coverage is going to be operating income EBITDA divided by all of your debt service principal interest here, interest only, principal and interest on the refi. Drag this over. And remember, my numbers are just arbitrary. Okay. So this is essentially going to be our basis for equity requirements, which is essentially half. Now, if we were going to fund, 80% with debt, now our debt requirements are going down quite a bit, or I mean equity requirements. Now there's still some other things. So the mixed use, I think we've got everything we need from this for today, so we don't need that anymore. Let's look at, all right, so we have got down to cash flow here. We're going to put cash flow after debt service. Then we have other cash flow items still. So we've got startup costs. We did all that. We have taxes, which won't be in for a bit. We'll have CapEx, which won't be until I put in the financial statements. And then startup cost taxes. Oh, exit proceeds. That'll come from the cash flow statement. Let's think. So when we do the CapEx on, like for the financial statements, I got to think how we're going to handle. So this is going to go into fixed assets and it'll be depreciable. The development and acquisition costs, and you'll be able to define the useful life, which will define like when the depreciation happens. It'll be very flexible, depending on you'll have to talk to your accountant on that, but I'll make it flexible so you can do all kinds of different depreciation. It depends on the type of construction and development and all that stuff, but it'll be flexible to handle most situations. So this is going to go on to the fixed asset schedule as the value of the building, facility, and land. Well, not land. So you will have to buy the land. That could be in the purchase price. You know what? We're going to have to separate that out because land is not depreciable. So I'm going to make this last section for land only. And note anything here is not depreciable. And what that means is you'll have a cost. There's going to be no way, you can't deduct any of the expenses here. And there'll be some way to do the land value on the exit, and that'll be a separate proceed item with potentially a cost basis and potentially a gain, depending on the cost basis. Now, you might have some things done to the land. It's tricky. So there's potential that you could have it depreciable, and if so, you can include in any of these sections up here, and then it'll just go into fixed assets as a depreciable item. But anything in this last section, and I'll put this in yellow, anything put in here is just going to go towards, it'll increase your asset value, but it's not going to allow you to have a depreciable expense. And then I'll have it separate proceeds. Now, when we do an exit value, it's going to be based on a multiple of EBITDA, which is essentially the same thing as a cap rate. You're just looking at operational cash flow and applying some multiple to it. A cap rate, you just be dividing the annual amount by some percentage, and EBITDA multiple, you're just multiplying the EBITDA, annualized trailing 12-month EBITDA by some multiple. But you'll come up with an exit value that will be applied to the business. You can define Well, there's going to be all kinds of tricky things in here for the financial statements. Um, Now, I also want to attach a waterfall distribution to this. And I don't know if I've ever tied in a waterfall distribution into a financial statement, so that might be a first for that. We'll see how that goes. We'll have to probably do the whole model, get a final output for distributable cash flow and contributions required, and use that as the basis for the waterfall, I'm assuming. We'll get more to that. Okay, so we got startup costs, all this stuff here, and then we got final cash flow, which will be cash flow after debt service, and then these will all come through as negatives, except for proceeds. And then this will be the basis for the equity required per month. Now remember, on this, I'm not doing the max negative position and rolling that all up into the um, year period zero cash requirement. I'm just doing it as it is required. And so when I do the internal rate of return, it's going to look at the cash flows over time, not the minimum equity needed for the entire time. Now that will still be displayed. You'll be able to see the equity contributions in total based on all the different assumptions. However, when I do the internal rate of return calculation, it's going to look at the cash flows needed. You'll be able to see what's needed each month based on any negative cash flows. And then what's distributable based on positive cash flows. And that'll be after all these other things are paid. Okay, so monthly. The annual detail is pretty simple. I'm just trying to make sure I didn't forget anything. I think we're squared away pretty good on all of the granular monthly stuff. And you'll see what I mean on the distribution detail that I normally do. You'll see how it's going to be a little bit different. But let me put the annual detail in here, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a 10-year model maximum. Okay, so here I just want to go sum ifs, and I'm going to take the monthly row here if the year matches our year up top. Oh wait, and this, we don't need this, and this is going to be 1, 2, hard-coded. Alrighty. Now I should be able to drag this down if I just lock these two. Okay, months since live. These are not relevant for the annual tab. Now occupancy, we're going to do an average ifs. For each year. And we have to do a second criteria. We only want to take if it's greater than 0. Otherwise, we'll get a diluted number. Okay, looking good. this can roll down. All right. Now, all the numbered amounts we can just drag down like this, and now I can just go copy, paste. Ancillary, income, and total. So our total revenue should match. We'll check it. 103,936. 103,936 and then 44. Yep. Okay, so that's good. Staff count, we'll just do an index formula. Picking the last day of the year or last month of the year. Whoops. Index here. Row 4. What do we do here? Let's see. So we want that row match. There's our match. Match this with that. So there's our end count over time. We have our in-house staff costs, including payroll taxes and benefits. And we have another index formula. So here we want to take our staffing headcount. Drop this down. Now 32, does that match? No, 45, so we're doing 158. 158. Oh, wait. We have to update the date formatting, so this should be 11, not 1. Hold on. Should be 12. There we go, and then this can be formatted as year. All right, 87, 45, 45, 87, perfect. So that's working. Next up we have, oh wait, is that everything? Oh no. Strike this down. Our outsourcing expenses for outsourced professionals. Then we have other overhead items. Alrighty, now we're talking. So EBITDA, this should match 19,827. 19,827 looking good. Let's come down here further. So valuation here. We do not need this row at all. What is going on here? 262 plus 14. What's in 14? Development acquisition. I think this is okay here as it is. Proceeds, this can all be copy pasted down. For all this stuff. And the cool little waterfall structure we'll do on the executive summary to show like the effects of all the debt happenings. All right. This is fine, and then these will all be updated. So now we check this ending cash balance should match the monthly, hopefully, and then we have got it all. Perfect. All right, that's a good start here. So now that this is pretty shored up, there's obviously going to be some other items we add in once we do the financial statements. But before we get to that, let's go and add a distributions. I wanted to do this to show you guys how it's going to be a little bit different than I normally do it. So let's pull up a normal, let's see, what's got a normal, go to the vending machines one. So usually I do a distributions contributions summary like this. Let's just bring it all over. But it's going to be a little bit different. Well, first of all, it's got to go for 10 years. And this is where the discounted cash flow analysis is going to happen. So normally when I do this, I look at all the positive months and all the negative months and then do a waterfall. But this is going to be a little bit different. So it's going to be somewhat, so total cash returned is taking any monthly cash flow as positive. So 298, if the year up here matches our distribution year, and if it is greater than 0. So those are any positive monthly cash flows, which we do have some in the first year. So we go that, and then cash outlay, we're going to do the same thing with any negative cash flow. So this is so far the same as normal. That's there. Let's bring these dates over. All right, so really, so here's our cash in, cash out per period. And no, this is negative because I have no exit value yet, but I am repaying debt. We can always just put this to no, so we can just see normal numbers here. Okay, so now we don't have remaining we don't need this at all. Remaining equity and contributions we don't need because we're actually going to assume any negative cash flow net for the year is going to be a required contribution. So now we just have cash flow per period. There is actually no year 0 in this case. Now this is, so the monthly is starting right here. So this is technically the cash required. Which is going to be this amount. However, you also in year one have some cash returned. Now the question is, to do an internal rate of return and a discount and all that, we actually have to do it by month. Otherwise, we can't do it by year. So this is why I did this schedule like I had it, because it was the only way to do it properly when you had situations like this or just weird cash flow situations. It would handle it all. But if I want to show the timing of when the investors are actually going to have to come up with the equity based on the operational assumptions and everything and the actual months and when the cash is required to be used, we're going to have to go by month. Which is, I've done cash flow waterfalls monthly with 120 periods before, but never with this contribution distribution style. So we're gonna have to put this down here, and actually this is just going to be total cash return is going to be if the total cash flow is greater than 0, then give me the number, otherwise 0. It's no longer going to be a sum ifs like I used to do it. And if it's less than 0, give me it down here. And there's our cash flow. And then total cash would be the sum of those two, and this is going to be the basis for the internal rate of return, which is now going to start in period 1 and go all the way over. Now let me drag this over. We got to go a lot of periods. 120. Now I can do an annual view that's the same as this, but an annual basis. It's just that the internal rate of return calculation is going to be based on these monthly cash flows. So let's look at this. This is DR. So we have an internal rate of return here. However, this is now a monthly internal rate of return because these are monthly periods, so we have to convert it to an annual. And I can't remember off the top of my head how to do that, so let me pull up. I've got it in, I believe, I've got it in a bunch of these. Let's just pull up this waterfall distribution one here. So here's the monthly and then the annual. 1 plus the rate raised to 12 minus 1. So let's get that. So our rate is actually the IRR of all the monthly periods. So we just replace that with the formula with this. So 1 plus the IRR, and then converting it to an annual is raising it to the 12th power minus 1. So really, it's a really high IRR, but the assumptions are completely arbitrary. I could just make this higher. Let's say your acquisition cost is 10 million. Now you have a little bit of a lower IRR. Okay, discount. So this is now going to be a monthly discount rate. And so when we go here, we discount it by this 10%. We're discounting each monthly cash flow. Now, if you want to apply, so the present value, we go all the way to DR. Okay, and Now this is a monthly rate. If we want to convert it to an annual, like the IRR has been converted to an annual rate. There's a way to do that as well. I'm trying to remember. So if this is at 10% annually, the monthly compounded rate is lower. And I know I did this one in the self-storage deal, I believe. I had a monthly waterfall on here. Let's look at this one. So here was the hurdle. This was the annual hurdle rate for internal rate of return. And then, yes, so here's the conversion to monthly. So what this would be, let's see, what's the easiest way to do this? Well, I could do plus B12, and we replace B12 with that whole entire formula, which is oh, now I'm confused. Uh, Hold on, let me go back here. So what's the rate? D5 is the annual rate, so let's replace D5 is the annual rate, which is now here. Let me see what else we have. Oh, this is so, hold on. So this whole thing is converting B12 into a monthly, and then we're doing 1 plus that monthly rate minus 1 raised to the period here. So I believe this is, and we can check this to make sure. Let's drag this over. The number should be a little bit higher, yes, because it's a monthly rate, not an annual. So if we plug in our IRR annually to this, we should get something close to a net present value of 0. Perfect. Okay, so that's a good check. So the formula is working. Now it's going to be a little bit different than 0 if we were to give it to some decimals. Well, actually, it's pretty close to 0. That's good. So that's the most accurate way to do monthly to annual rates. Now, if again, the discount rate's like 10%, you've got a positive NPV because your discount rate's lower than IRR, and the IRR is actually solving for what you have to discount the future cash flows at to equal the initial investment. Let's see. So this, we don't need to plus B9. That's that. We can actually do present value just period 2 and forward, and just assume period 1 is the initial investment. It might be the same, it might not. It just depends. And then that present value is just a present value of everything. Okay, and I mean, technically, this is period 0, and this shouldn't be discounted at all, but we're starting everything in period 1. It's not a huge difference. It's just we're going by month. So this is a new layout for how I'm doing the net present value in cash return by month. This is the most accurate way, and you can now see the cash required by equity by month and the resulting internal rate of return. Now for investor cash flow, owner cash flow, we'll have to build these when I get the cap table in here and get the equity requirements all split out for who's what percentage each one is doing. And that'll flow the same. We'll have to use the same formula, same style, but that's just so on a project level right now, we actually have a full-on discounted cash flow analysis with the internal rate of return right here based on all of these different development, acquisition, revenue assumptions, and costs and everything. Um, so that's good. All right, well, it's 10:55. Slower day today, but that's fine. We got good progress. The monthly detail got all the debt logic done. We got this distributions laid out. Um, so next Monday, we'll keep going on this one. We'll probably get into the financial statements. We'll do the financial statement integration, finish this. We'll get all our other like cap table, income statement, balance sheet, cash flow statement, capex, get all that stuff going. Get an executive summary in here. Do some visualizations. You guys haven't seen me do visualizations on a model in a long time, so we'll have that. Um, but yep, it's going to be a good model. It'll take a bit. Next week we'll see how far we can go. Hope everyone has a great weekend. Happy Friday, and hopefully you learned something here. Take it easy. Oh, and don't forget, check out smarthelping.com for more. Again, you can buy all the models on the site for $9.99. The model I'm doing now will be included in the real estate bundle and the industry specific bundle once it's done, and it will be a one-time fee of $75.